everyone, this is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is John Underwood. John is a businessman. He has worked in different careers all his life, but recently has taken an interest in a topic that is of great concern to a lot of women in our community, and that is discussion about death and dying. And I'm going to talk to John about an amazing initiative that he has started, and ask him some questions that can help us, know what he's up to. So, hi, John. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm really, really glad to meet you. I've been a follower of the Death Café movement for some time, and I have some questions for you. So, you ready for?
Yeah, fire away.
Okay. Well, look, first of all, thank you for doing this. I think that the initiative is wonderful. But tell us what a Death Cafe is. Tell us what it is and how you got started in this work.
Okay, so a Death Cafe is a pop-up meeting where people will come together with the intention of talking about death. And they do that in a public place usually. It could be a cafe, could be a library, could be at a festival or something like that. And we try and make it very comfortable. There's always tea and cake for people to drink and eat and relax. And the key thing about us is that we don't have any agenda. We don't have any answers. It's really open to where the group want to take the discussion. There's no place we have to get to. And so we don't have films in it. We don't have guest speakers. We don't have, menus of questions or anything like that. It's really just open, unstructured group discussion. And it's aimed at people who want to talk about death. So if you don't want to talk about death, and a lot of people don't, that's absolutely fine, of course. And Death Cafe is not for you. But there are a large number of people, in my experience, who do want to have this conversation at some time. And so Death Cafe is provided with them in mind. And so I started the first one in 2011. In September, and since then there've been over 2,500 in 32 different countries. And so volunteers have used our guide to set up their own events and provide this in the community. And the feedback we've got is really wonderful. The conversations are pretty magical when people talk about death, because it's a conversation that everyone there wants to have, as kind of positively made a decision that they want to have this conversation. There's a lot of sharing. It gets very deep. People really kind of open up to each other, and they just say it how it is. When death is the subject, pretense seems unnecessary. People say their truth, and for me anyway, it's a privilege to hear that, to be able to sort of hear where people are coming from about this fascinating subject. So it really makes for a magical experience.
It's amazing to hear you talk about it as a magical experience. I love that, because when you think about death, though, John, I mean, people are usually, they put it, up there on the fear of spiders, fear of speaking in public. I mean, it's really like the ultimate thing that we think about and we fear. And I must admit, I've got
are pretty magical when people talk about death, because it's a conversation that everyone there wants to have, as kind of positively made a decision that they want to have this
life. And a lot of women in the community also have responded this way when I've asked them the question in the 60 and Me community. It's not something they like to think about, but they like to get control of it, and they like to get control of the experience. So how in these Death Cafe meetings do you enable that comfort, that sort of relaxation that facilitates that magical, like you say, experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people...
they put it, up there. On the fear of spider in public. I mean, it's really like the ultimate thing that we think about and we fear. And I must admit, I've got
a pretty magical, because it's a conversation of life. And some people, people respond to that in different ways. There's no right way or there's no wrong way. Some people they just don't want to talk about it. Talking about it is, unpleasant. It's not a conversation they want to have. It's just, let's leave it alone. And, that's absolutely fine, of course, for those people. That they should just do that. Right. But for another group of people, and I count myself amongst them, if something's relevant to one's life, if it's it's important, if it's significant, then I, for one, would rather take it out of the box and have a really good look at it, and to do some work with it, and examine it in detail. And so that's what Death Cafe is for, and what we allow people to do. And I think, I don't personally believe in absolutes. So I'm saying that I don't think anything is absolutely good, and nothing is absolutely bad. So death, I don't believe, for me personally, it's just my personal opinion, that is absolutely bad. So as well as the sort of pain and the separation that comes with death, and the fear of the unknown and whatnot, there are, in my experience, some good qualities that come from reflecting on death. And so, for example, you can't reflect on death without sort of acknowledging the fact that it's going to happen to you at some point. All of us have to realize that one day we're going to die. And then on from that, you realize, well, that's not yet. I'm still alive.
Still got lots to do.
Yeah, there's still hope.
And also you can reflect back on your life and look at the positive things that have happened in your life, and just build the character that takes you forward for the next 30 whatever years you have on this planet. And I think one thing I was going to say to you in response to that comment about some people not wanting to talk is that I found in our community that women do want to talk about it, but from a more practical perspective. Like they want to make sure everything's taken care of, that they've got things organized, maybe even pay up in advance for your burial place or your whatever. And I think more and more people are doing that now, to get, as you say, to face it and embrace it and then move on. Do you agree?
There's a lot of practical benefits as well from looking at death. There's a lot that we can do to make death easier and better. And Dame Cicely Saunders, who's one of my personal heroes, who started the modern hospice movement in South London in the 1950s, said that the way we die lives on in those people that we leave behind. And so if we really care about them, we can prepare for death in a way that makes our death easier and potentially transformative and incredibly healing for those people that we leave behind. So foremost amongst those things is kind of making a will. 60% of people die in the UK without having made a will, and depending on the circumstances, that can cause all manner of problems. We can do some planning to sort of get things in order, as it were, and make sure that people have access to our bank details and whatnot. We can look at the sort of the healthcare side of things. There, in the UK, we can make advanced decisions, which say it's a legally binding document which refuses certain treatment in certain circumstances if we lack the capacity to make the decision when it's required. We can make an advanced statement which sets out, things like where we want to die. Would it be at home? Would it be in a hospice? Would it be in a hospital? How we'd like to be cared for, if there are certain people that we'd like to have with us, or certain things around us, and can set out those kind of things. We can plan our funeral. Again, if you die and people don't know what to do, it can be extremely beneficial and useful.
So I think that if you can take control of a situation, there are some things you cannot control, like dying. There are some things that you can, like being ready and, like helping others to share the journey with you. And I don't know whether, I think I've mentioned to you that in my past, I work with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who, is just just an amazing doctor and who's obviously worked on the field of death and dying, and I used to help with her workshops. And this was actually one of the biggest things, was what she would call unfinished business. Helping people to deal with their unfinished business. And so whether it's in writing or verbally, just to share what you want to happen when you're ill or dying. So okay, we've got the death cafes, which are not a place, they're an event, and they take place in people's homes. 10 or 12 people can get together and just sit down with a facilitator and talk through their experiences of dying or death and their fears or concerns. And you said that you're in how many countries now, and how many?
32 countries,
32, right?
and 2,500 death cafes, give or take. There's about 3 death cafes happening a day on average, globally, wherever.
It's amazing, John. And I would say to people watching this video, if you go to deathcafe.com, very simple. And there's a list there of all the different events that are taking place. I think you even can search by area if there's one in your neighborhood or your city. And then if you don't see one, you can actually register to run one yourself. Do you want to tell us briefly about that, John?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Death Cafe is completely not for profit. No one makes any money. So it's completely free to set up your own Death Cafe. And we have a specific model, as I say, which is a group directed session where we don't have agendas, themes, guest speakers, films, etc., etc. We're really just creating a space for people to talk. And if you agree to follow the model that's set out in our guide, then you can use the name Death Cafe for your event. You can post the event to our website, and you can talk to the media or other people as a representative of Death Cafe. And what this has brought together is an amazingly talented group of people who believe that talking about death is important enough to devote their free time to providing these events without any remuneration or pay, and they have great results. People really enjoy them, and we have a turnaround of around 60%. And what I mean by that is people really enjoy the events, they evaluate them highly, and oftentimes they'll say, "Oh, when's the next one? I'll come back," and then they don't. So how people tend to connect with this is at a certain point they think, all right, I want to check in with death. And they do that, and they really enjoy it. They get something from it, and then they go off and they take that back into their life and carry on. And that feels extremely healthy for me, because Death Cafe is aimed at people who aren't dealing with the raw reality of death and dying right there. And because we can find ourselves having to deal with that at any point. A phone call can come, something out of nowhere, and we're trying to do a bit of pre-work so that when you do find yourself in that situation, you've got a bit more confidence, you've heard some things, you've reflected on it a bit, and you can go into that situation with a bit more confidence and agency. But also, if you reflect that death is going to come someday and you're still alive, then it makes you ask the question, well, I've got a certain amount of time left. I don't know how long it is. Hopefully it's very long, but what's important to me? How do I want to use that? What do I want to look back on at the end of my life and say, I'm really glad I did that. That was important. That was me. I did it. And we believe those answers are different for everyone. So we create a space for people to seek their truths in this manner.
Yeah, I think having a space where you're in an objective state of mind, where you're not emotionally involved in a bereavement or dealing with your own illness, where you are just able to look at things a bit objectively and see that really maybe the fear of death is associated with just not living completely and fully. So just get out there after that meeting and just live that life. And in the context that you've kind of confronted the deepest, darkest of thoughts. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Okay, John, this has been fantastic. I've really learned a lot, and I appreciate you sharing with us the details about Death Cafe, and encourage everyone to go check out the website. It's very simple to look for an event near you, and if you don't see one, maybe consider doing one yourself. And thank you for being here, John. Very, very helpful and great conversation.